Protect your online security with over 60% off 2-year plans at NordVPN. See the link at the top of the description to get started.
Hello and welcome to another managerial special from the Honest Football Podcast. I'm Craig Savage and with me as always is Mr. Daniel Cody. Today we're talking about the final of the three relegated Premier League sides. That is Leeds United. They have hired Daniel Farke as their new first team manager on a 4-year deal. But before we talk about him, let's talk about the previous manager in charge of last season in the Premier League. That was Sam Allardyce. And that's all we need to talk about Sam Allardyce because it was literally that brief. But Javi Gracia was before that. But Leeds' season, even though the season before they just about go over the line on the final day, this season was an absolute disaster.
Yeah, and it was a season that was lacking in stability, wasn't it? Obviously, Jesse Marsch, that decision to go. I mean, let's be honest, if we're looking at Leeds fans, we're going back to the Bielsa stage, aren't we? Because when you've got a man that's that adored and whose style is that imprinted on a club, the man that brought them back to the Premier League after 17 years, it's going to be a hard act to follow. And to be honest, I know Jesse Marsch got caught up in some of the perhaps perceived American mannerisms in his interviews and things like that, and the various comparisons going around that weren't particularly pleasant. But he wasn't actually doing a terrible job on points per game. It's just that Leeds were starting to drift at that stage of the season. Obviously, the thing they had in comparison for both the end of Bielsa and for Jesse Marsch was a lot of injuries. But the problem I had, and I go back to what I said about Leicester, when Rodgers went, fine, you've made that decision, but you've got to bring in a replacement that's going to inspire or improve. And Dean Smith wasn't that. And the same at Leeds, you let Jesse Marsch go, but then you bring in Javi Gracia, and then you bring in Big Sam. And look, Big Sam, I rate him better than you probably, but he's a man who hadn't been working at the top level for a while. And he had 4 very difficult games with Leeds practically doomed. It was an almost impossible job. Gracia before was not an improvement for me. And it was just flittering between different styles of football. It was defensively completely unorganised, as we've seen for a long time. And without the attacking aggression that they had under Bielsa and early on under Jesse Marsch, they just lost their way. And it is such a shame because obviously they're a huge club. It took them ages to get back up. And they went down in the end with a little bit of a whimper on the final day.
A little bit of a whimper. It's been a whimper for most of the season. It was basically last season was a disaster, an absolute disaster for them. It's the goals they conceded were League Two-esque defending, in my opinion. Just far too many goals conceded and didn't really have the goal scorers to. It was basically pretty flat, despite the home. Obviously, Ellen Road being a hostile environment, even that was just deflated within 10 minutes, and the game was done for them really. So that was them finishing in the bottom 3 of the Premier League. Now they're back in the Championship. They have hired Daniel Farke as their new manager. A statement, Daniel Farke. So I'd like to thank everyone for a really warm welcome. I'm really grateful at the moment to work at this amazing club. I feel humble at this time. I know the responsibility to fulfill all the expectations, and I want to repay the trust shown. The most important thing is to create a togetherness and unity within the club again. And from today onwards, I will work on it with my staff and players. And I trust our supporters will be there when we need them. And I can't wait for the first game of the season. Speaking of the announcement, Parag Mafe, I don't know who he is. Is he the new recruitment manager?
Yeah, he's part of that 49ers group from the...
Oh, is he the 49ers? Oh, yeah, because they take over, yes. After a thorough recruitment process, we are excited to confirm Daniel's appointment as our first team manager. His record in the Championship is clear, and I'm impressed by his leadership and plan to guide us back to the Premier League. We welcome Daniel and his staff and look forward to a strong season. Farke will be assisted by Eddie Reimer, with Christopher John and Chris Domagala in the coaching staff, having previously worked with him at Norwich. First of all, probably one of the best appointments in the Championship so far, considering of managerial appointments.
Oh, in my opinion, it's a brilliant appointment. I mean, I might be proven wrong, and I haven't got the stats. I haven't checked every single one. But I can't think there's a manager with a better record in the Championship than Daniel Farke. I'm pretty sure every full season he's managed in it, they've got promoted. So he's done one hell of a job at Norwich. Obviously, he took them up twice. They came back down, but they didn't invest a huge amount, which you would expect Leeds to do if they go up. I've said it from the very start of the summer. I said it during the other relegated clubs manager specials. For me, if Leeds keep the core of their squad together and get the right manager, since it looked like it was going to be Daniel Farke, for me, they are the favourites to win the title because they've got a very solid side, a lot of good young players. bit of experience dotted around if they can keep them fit. And all they're really missing is a goal scorer, because you can't rely on Bamford to stay fit or potentially score goals at this time, because towards the end of the season last year, he missed a few good chances. But otherwise, I think Leeds are in a really good position. I'm a bit worried about a few of the extra players that are maybe going to be going out, and some of the signings linked are weird. But like you, Daniel Farke is a brilliant appointment. He did a very good job at Norwich. And it wasn't just the fact that he did a good job when they got promoted. Yes, there was the odd game they were efficient, but generally they played attacking, aggressive, high-pressing football. They tore teams apart. They won the championship at a canter, playing aggressive football and scoring goals, which, let's be honest, is how Leeds came up under Bielsa, and how I think most Leeds fans would probably want their side to play. So if they can get over that initial period, sort the defence out, get a couple of additions in there, then I think sky's the limit for them this season with a very good managerial appointment. So from that new takeover, got to be encouraging if that's their first big decision.
Yeah, and I think the key thing is having a spine in the team. Really, it just seemed to be all over the place last season. Daniel Farke has a good record of keeping, once it gets players into form, they're really in good form. You look at Timo Pukki, Todd Cantwell, Max Aarons, you're three big players really for Norwich who were solid in those championship runs as well. So you need to find out straight away a core and a spine of the team.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And obviously there is a potential for that being there. I know they're being linked with goalkeepers at the moment, but you've got Liam Cooper if you can keep him fit. If you can keep people like Jack Harrison at the club, who will be fantastic at championship level. Again, they've struggled with injuries to some of their more experienced players. Stuart Dallas, the forgotten man, missed nearly the whole season. Luke Haley missed a bit of it and maybe is just pushing over the hill now. But for me, it's just about adding a centre forward, keeping enough of the midfielders. I was a little surprised that people like Forshaw went with them coming down, but perhaps understandable. A little bit of a turnover in the squad, but they've got a good enough spine there. They've got enough good players, and they've got those little bits of magic. If they can keep someone like a Harrison or a Nonto, the creative spark is there. And it's just about having someone to put the ball in the back of the net. And for me, if Leeds do that under Daniel Farke, they're going to create loads of chances. They're going to play on the front foot. I'm genuinely, even not as a Leeds fan, I'm very excited about this appointment for them, because I think it's possibly the best one we've seen this summer.
Is Rodrigo still there?
He is, but he's rumoured to have that tiny release clause, which looks like it will be activated at some point this summer.
Yeah. But yeah, it is literally, I think it has to be a better recruitment. Obviously, Victor left back end of last season, and it didn't surprise me because I think he lost it with the fans far too many times, and it got too much to him. He needed to go, and now he's obviously back in Spain. But recruitment is key, as we alluded to. How you're going by playing style? You said obviously a hard, aggressive style. That will take time with Leeds, though. So you would hope the Leeds fans, even though they're a very passionate core group of fans, you hope you give Daniel Farke a bit of time.
Yeah, you've got to give it the first 10 or 12 games, but I think that's the thing that makes the end of last season all the more surprising, because they obviously went to those desperate measures to try and stay up with Gracia and Allardyce, who are slightly more defensive managers. And it just means they're going to then have to catch up again and get back to what they were doing previously. The one thing I will say for Daniel Farke is when he's done it with Norwich before, generally, he has also done it whilst being measured. It's not just gun-ho for the sake of it, like the Bielsa one. And if you lose the ball, you're 2-on-2 at the back every time. So there is a little bit of measure to it. And I think we will see more defensive additions to the club. But I think overall, you've got to be pleased with this appointment. It is going to be attacking. It is going to take a little bit of time, as you say. But if Leeds can navigate that first 10 or so games, and they've got a few little banana skins in there going away to Portman Road. They've got the first game of September is a Yorkshire derby with Sheffield Wednesday, which obviously there'll be another manager special on in a couple of hours. And away to Birmingham, at home to West Brom. Their sides that are going to be tricky to beat. But look, he's got, on paper, a dream of a first day of the season at home to Cardiff on TV. If they get through that with a good win at home against Shrewsbury in a couple of midweek after, that place will be bouncing by the second week of the season.
Yeah, and the fans have got to play a huge part. Obviously, they're going to have a massive following home and away. So I'm quite confident in this appointment. Probably for the first time, and I didn't have much confidence in most of the appointments from last season.
It's weird not having negatives, isn't it?
I'm actually quite positive on it. And I'd say he's got experience, 2 championship winning medals. It's the sky's the limit. It is literally a bit of patience and a bit of time for them. But the question is, will he get the patience? Will he get the time? Will he see out the season? First of all, will he see out the season?
Well, for me, yes, because, and I'm going to give a bit of a spoiler for my pre-season predictions in 3 or 4 weeks' time. As it stands at the moment, Leeds will be in my top 2 with this appointment, because it was the only thing for me that was missing. Of course, depending on who they lose and gain, that could change a little. But as it stands at the moment, I'm as confident with this. I'm probably more confident because of the other 2 relegated clubs and the appointments they've made. I know, obviously, thankfully for the listeners of this podcast, you were away when the Russell Martin one came through, because we didn't have to listen to you give your views on him.
I could have done it on the Sun Lounger. I could have.
Craig will do a live stream on Russell Martin when he gets sacked. But look, based on that and Maresca, whose stint in Parma was not great, I would say this is by far the best of the 3 relegated clubs for an appointment. There are some other very good teams in the Championship, but with the Leeds squad combined with that manager, he sees out the season for me. I think Leeds are in with a great shout, which will probably be your next question. But yeah, for me, it's all ticks. And for once, I haven't got many negatives. Maybe the only one is that at the very end at Norwich, he slightly changed his style to try and adapt. But even then, that was probably under pressure. He's not going to do it here. And hopefully, after an average spell at Gladbach, he'll get his mojo back and just walk the Championship, because that will get me 3 points in the predictions.
Yeah, I think it's his comfort zone, this division. Obviously, it's a lot harder. It's probably the hardest league to predict for next season, even though you named probably one of your top 2s already. So, but the last question for me is a 4-year deal. He ain't seeing out the 4-year deal, is he? Who sees out deals now anyway?
Well, look, we've said this many a time. The average Championship manager lifespan is less than a season. I think Daniel Farke will push that up a little by making it out through the season. But look, the problem is if Leeds, as I expect, may get promoted, or even if they're in that playoff mix and they're right up there, it then becomes about next season. Having new owners in when you've come down to the Championship is okay if you start well and you're winning a lot of games, but when you go up to the Premier League and you're then fighting against the bottom 3 again, which first season you normally will be, it then becomes a little bit trickier, and that's completely unpredictable. We saw last season clubs like Leeds and Leicester panicked when we didn't perhaps think they would. So maybe there'll be lessons learned from that. Maybe the new ownership will work in a different way. But let's be brutally honest, a manager seeing out a 4-year deal, unless you're one of the top 6 in England, probably unlikely, isn't it?
Yeah, my worry is obviously it's new owners. Owners can do some really crazy things, especially some owners in the Championship. So I hope they are quite loyal and give their managers a bit of chance.
What does that mean? Loyal? That doesn't exist.
So it's a big word in the Championship, but I hope that's how. I hope the new owners, now they've got the majority stake, give Daniel Farke a chance and see how it goes, rather than go, well, we've got 10 games. 10 games are gone, and we're not in the top 6. So, and you're only 2 points behind, and we're going to sack you.
And how many times have we highlighted it? The clubs that have generally overperformed in the Championship are the ones that are the most stable on and off the pitch. And after a chaotic year and a bit, just after Leeds have got it right, they just need to get back to basics now. Give him time, give him the squad he needs, and give him the time to make it happen, because I'm pretty sure he will.
Yeah, totally agree. They have lost their way, but it's a new era at Leeds United, and Daniel Farke is their man to take them back to the Premier League. Let us know down in the comments if you think that will happen, and do you think it's a very good appointment for them? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Honest Football Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at Honest Football 3, and we'll see you next time.